Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're starting a little bit late today, but we will be getting started soon. If you want to take a water break, a bio break, whatever makes your heart happy, stretch, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
I feel like I should put music on or something.
But Bonnie looks like she's DJing, so maybe we can get Bonnie
She should.
something for us.
Hey, Mickey.
Hello. I apologize so much for being tardy.
No problem. It's okay. Mark's not here.
As always, client meetings just love to push the envelope. I escaped kind of suddenly, so it's good.
I get it. It happened to me this morning as I had a meeting right after our big company meeting, and it was a mess. Oh. I ended up having like 3 meetings booked at once.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, it's good to be booked and busy, but oh goodness, sometimes. Awesome.
Yeah, Atiba, 2 weeks, no Mark. I'm about to take his job.
Awesome. All right, content and copy.
Yes, we're going to be diving into that. Yay. Once we figure out where Mark is, or I'll just take over. And
I'm glad I'm not the last one. Oh man, the host and the host both late. Good days.
I think it happens. Yes, I did not knock Mark off. He was at War Room this week, and today's his first day back.
Oh,
I'm sure he's doing 20 things.
Yes.
Y'all give me a second. I'm going to give him a call just to make sure. Or maybe he's hunting down donuts. We know how he is. We'll see.
I thought he couldn't eat donuts anymore.
I think he found some he could.
Ooh, dangerous.
That's...
All right, well, I'm here. Hi, everybody. How's everyone going? Atiba, hi, you joined me. Thank you. In the car, but you're here. I love it.
Mickey, so good to see you.
You too. I'm pumped to be here. I'm just going to close down every notification I've got. Make sure that I'm not distracted by dings or rings. And I'm pumped. Hopefully we can get Mark and Michelle in here in a minute, but
if not, I'm taking his job. That's just how it works around here. You snooze, you lose.
Love it. I'm gonna get a blank piece of paper because I'm one of those, I'm a writer, right? So I have to always have a pen and paper in my hand. It's how I process things. So
I'm better with pen and paper too.
Yeah, if you notice me writing, it's just making notes, mental notes, so they stick. That's all it is.
Fair enough. You're not talking bad about us. I get it.
No, it's funny. So I did my master's in counseling psychology, and we have to legit warn people, like, just so you know, I'm going to be taking notes during a conversation, and this is why. Because sometimes they'll think like you're making a note of something bad.
Makes sense. I mean, I get it.
Oh.
All right. Well, he made it. Check him out.
Guys. I had to go get my donuts.
I knew it.
You can't have this meeting without donuts. That'd be ridiculous.
Exactly. Well, let's go ahead and start. Oh, we got someone else joining, but I'll go ahead and kick it off since I just started the live stream. I was going to take your job if you.
Perfect.
If you didn't come in time, I was like, I'm here again. But hello, everyone, and welcome to Agencies Talk. This is a weekly digital marketer talk show hosted by our president, Mark de Grasse, where he gets to FaceTime with agency owners and about their zones of genius. I am Michelle Knight, the digital marketer community manager, and this week I am not Mark de Grasse, but only this once. He can keep his identity this time.
Yay.
Today,
it sucks.
Today we are joined by Mickey Anderson, owner of Asteri Pursuit. Mickey is an expert in copywriting and content creation and one of our CPs from the North. the Great White North to be exact, or Canada for those who are not lucky to be familiar with Strange Brew and the SNL skit. But I will go ahead and shut up now and kick it over to Mark and Mickey.
You know, my favorite Canadian show was Kids in the Hall. Did anybody ever watch Kids in the Hall? Okay.
Just briefly.
Don't watch the new one. If you've seen that, they had a new one on Netflix or one of those, and it is rough. Probably the best. More male nudity than I've seen in any show ever. I was like, wow, this is shocking. Anyways, check out Kids in the Hall if you like shocking comedy that's sort of funny. Well, welcome, Mickey. I love talking content, and actually I just went to War Room, so that was my first time at the big War Room event. So I was trying to, I talked to all these successful people, and I was kind of like, all right, everybody's doing content wrong. And then I pitched them essentially on the ideas that I'm gonna do on the certification that's coming up, and it was like, man, it blew people's minds. Like one person I talked to was like, I can't talk to you anymore. Because that's how out there my ideas were. So I'm going to run it by you guys, and we'll see if I have to rewrite the certification. So Mickey, let's start with you. What's your what do you do?
So I'm a consultant and coach now. I'm a former agency owner. I actually just closed down the agency about 6 months ago and made the big transition back to being solopreneur. And I have to say that I'm much happier now. I did love agency life, but it just wasn't for me. And so here I am. I help small and micro business owners, so under $500,000 in annual revenue per year, service-based businesses who are doing all the things, hustling all the time, and not growing the way they should. So I help them identify what marketing works, what doesn't, cut the stuff that doesn't, and leverage the stuff that does.
Oh, I love that. Well, I love the focus on micro businesses too, because that's actually the majority of businesses. Yeah, and a lot of times it's like, 7 figures and 8 figures. At this event, it was like, I'm at 20 figures. And you're like, I don't understand that.
Trying math in your head.
No, I can't help you. Well, that's awesome. So what do you do for them? Do you actually do their content strategy or actually building out the content and writing the content?
Yeah, so I started off, I was a conversion copywriter in a former life through the agency. So I worked on content strategy, launch and promotional strategy, and then the actual execution. So the copy and content. So website, email primarily, but as well, all sorts of content all over the place. So I have lots of experience in there. And I basically taken that, wrapped it up, and now I coach and consult. So we build a holistic marketing plan. Most of the businesses I work with aren't in a place where they're ready to dive into paid advertising, right? They're just not there yet. They don't have consistent revenue. And so we focus on leveraging content in the right places, as well as other ways of building awareness. But I help them build the strategy, and then I help maximize what they've got. So I'll review, give feedback, help them optimize it, but I'm not actually writing it for them.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that's actually the ideal. That's with my agency. That's what I was trying to do, because I said, like, I'm not a doctor, so I shouldn't write your medical practice content because I don't know anything. So my whole goal is to do essentially what you're doing, which is fantastic. Has it been pretty effective in terms of like you have the course and then are they actually generating content themselves?
Yeah. So I do 2 versions. So there's like a consulting where I'm in and they do the thing and we're just working one-on-one, but I also have a membership, which is a hybrid model. So they learn my quarterly marketing framework through the online course, and then they show up to weekly coaching. And so we work through the process together, workshop style, but we also have office hours where they'll bring their stuff. I'll review it live with them, go through it, optimize it. Everyone learns together. They can all bring their content in, share ideas for how to repurpose it and splinter it. And it becomes this really, really great kind of place to maximize everyone's stuff.
That's awesome. So how do you kind of deal with the expectation that they're going to have to write? Because a lot of people will be like, oh God, I'm not a writer. I don't have time. Like, how do you get around that?
Yeah, so I call it my 2 hour a month content strategy. So if anyone's got 2 hours a month to build their content, they can do this really simply. And it all starts with one long form piece. If you're a video person or you love to talk, you record a video. If you're a writer, you write it out. But so the platform that I love to use is Descript, because it takes whatever video or audio record and it builds a transcription. And then as you edit the transcription, it edits the audio and video along with
I
it.
love
So
that.
it's essentially like video editing for dummies. I am not a tech person. And so I recommend that platform to anyone who wants to turn video or audio into blogs.
Oh,
And
that's
I have a
fantastic.
content splintering template that they use where they take the blog or the video and they break it out into 3 emails by just splintering it off. And then from that, they can turn that into 30 social media pieces that they can spread out to the world. And anytime we build out emails, we do it, if it's a content email, we call it the build it as you go nurturing email sequence. So every time they write an email, they blast it out to their list and then they add it to their automated nurture sequence. So all new subscribers get consistent content and it builds up nice timeline while existing subscribers still get the content they need.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, and Descript, I love Descript. I think it's probably the best transcription tool I've used that actually, and it breaks up the paragraphs and it's a fantastic tool. If you guys aren't using it, check out Descript. It's also pretty affordable, isn't it? Like
yeah, under $20 a month, I think. Yeah, it's super affordable. If I can use, I always say, like, I am not a tech person. A Tiva can account for this. I'm not a tech person, but if I can do Descript, believe me, you can. It's like editing a Word document.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So how do you come up with the topics? Hey, I'm a brand new client. I'm doing my first quarterly, plan. How do I come up with the content for that 2-hour window that I have to make?
So we straight up use the content funnel mapping tool. And what I like to do is make sure that they have at least one long form piece of content per stage of awareness. Right? So it's stuff that they can repurpose and use time and time again. So starting from unaware, how can we capture their attention with fun, exciting, entertaining content, right? What are the things, relatable moments with your clients, right? So if I'm thinking of my clients, most of them are banging their head on the table trying to come up with content ideas. So I legitimately recorded a video of me banging my head on the table trying to come up with content ideas, right? Like you don't
came
have
up with
to...
1,000 ideas though. That's not normal.
But you don't have to be like wildly creative. You just think of what are the moments that are like your client or customer would laugh at if somebody saw them doing it, and then you record that or do that. So I like to build those up, build one per stage of awareness, and then from there you can splinter it off and you just repurpose it. Because most of the time it's evergreen. It's stuff that's always going to be relevant for your customers. So just keep using it over and over and over again whenever you can.
Love that. Well, and you actually get a lot of brand consistency when you reuse content. Because I always talk about I have a case study where I helped a commercial fitness company that was selling it's called the Ski Row. It's like a rowing machine, but it's also a ski erg. So you could do ski training. And we did one photo shoot, I want to say 6 years ago. And they did not let me do another photo shoot until 4 years later. And so it was the same pictures being recycled for 4 years, and it actually helped because people saw the pictures and they recognized it because it was the same format every single time. And I imagine it's the same with content.
Yeah, well, I mean,
content.
when you're a startup in those first couple of years, you're trying to get people to recognize you, right? Just to know your name and remember it is a huge step as a startup. And so when you're consistently putting out the same message, the same images, the same logos, time and time again, it sticks. It gives people the opportunity to remember who you are and what you do. And then they become curious over time, especially if you're delivering value up front.
That's fantastic. Well, I know that the argument against that is like, oh, well, they're going to be bored because I've said this before, or these other 500 websites have said the same thing and I don't want to say the same thing. So I need to make new stuff, and they're wrong.
Yep.
But how do you get them over that hump of like, it's okay to reuse this information?
Yeah, well, what we've seen in the past 10 years is the internet and our brains have changed a lot. The way we engage with marketing, the way we engage with internet, with media has completely changed. Not even in just the past 10 years, but in the past 3 years. And so when you think of how many times it used to take your customer to remember who you are and to keep something stuck in their brain, now it's like measured in tenths of seconds. So how many times can we remind people, because they are not remembering the way they used to, right? Like on top of pandemic brain, like there's a lot going on in our lives. And so consistency is actually more important than ever now.
Yes. And to keep that one concept, if you say one kind of like customer value journey, T-shaped marketer, t-shirt marketer. Like it's,
Yeah.
and then I mean, for us, it's been like a decade, you know, and now everybody's like, oh yeah, I know about that. But even now, there's still way more people that know nothing about it than know about it. So we can
Yeah.
still say the same thing for probably another decade. That's what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's awesome. So have you seen any huge results or, you know, big case
Yeah.
studies?
Yeah, I haven't published any case studies yet, but we're
Mm.
still collecting data. The past 6 months, we've been able to double 3 small businesses, which has been
Wow.
really, really fun. It's a small group cohort, which makes it really exciting because you get to see all the nitty gritty details and
Mm.
everyone's rooting for each other, which is awesome. So we're in data collection right now, but the results are pretty exceptional. And especially as you see, like my favorite moments in this process are when you see people starting to grow their team and do less work but generate more profit.
Oh,
That's
love
when
that.
you know things are working and moving in the right direction. And it happens way faster than you think. Like once our clients start executing their framework, within 1 quarter, they start to see consistent growth.
Ah, that's fantastic. Well, nothing's better than getting a lead from something that you created like years ago, where it's like, oh yeah, I even forgot I made that, and it just made me X amount of dollars. So
Yeah.
I'd imagine that's huge for people. So
And
in
not
terms of
having to
that,
touch it too,
yeah,
as
without
well,
having to
right?
touch it,
Just leave it alone.
yeah, leave it alone, evergreen. You know, and that's why I always liked content, because my content stories, I built my first business with just organic content, no advertising. It was just articles and videos and, you know, little tips and all that kind of stuff, and it grew. It takes a long time
Hmm.
if you only do that way, but then you add in the ad dollars and now it explodes. Do you actually tell people to, like, okay, now that you have it rolling, now you should start boosting, or you should do any kind of paid stuff?
It depends on the person, right? I find ad strategy is going to be different based on the person, their goals, and their comfort zone as well.
Mm,
Some people are really happy and excited to throw money at ads, and some people aren't.
mm,
And I like to say there's no real like right or wrong way. It's what's going to work best for the business and the business owner. Or like, and I think of it a lot like investing. So there are lots of different ways to invest in the stock market. For me, one of the key things and things I think about when I'm about to invest is, am I going to be able to sleep at night making this
mm.
decision and making this investment? If not, it's not worth it for me.
Yeah.
And so I like to kind of put the same concept in the business owner's brain. Like if you're investing tons of dollars into ads and you are not going to be sleeping at night waiting to see if this works, it's probably not the right decision for you.
Yeah, yeah, do content.
Right?
It'll still be useful to somebody. And even if
Yeah.
it doesn't make you $1 zillion, it's still, that's all how I usually got small businesses on board. I'd say, like, hey, you're answering these questions all the time anyways, so why not just create a useful piece of content? Then instead of answering it, you could just be like, hey, check out my video.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Well,
sent it to 50 people.
and you want to think of the place where the most qualified leads are going to be. Is there a better investment you can make to generate leads? And if most of your warmest leads are at trade shows, oh my gosh, invest in a booth. Don't boost ads online. Go to the trade show, be there, invest in the booth. If they're going to be at an event and having a poster there or some sort of a table would be the thing, do that, right? So you need to look at the best possible way to get those qualified leads first. I think of it like a tree, like get the lowest hanging fruit and then
Mhm.
work your way up. And that's kind of the way that we look at ads as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. But I think like you said, if you can't sleep at night, then, sometimes it's like, you got to step out of your comfort zone. That's why, one of the reasons why I came here to Digital Marketer was because they built the whole company off of paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did a lot of content. They did a lot of everything, but mainly it was copy, ads, and funnels. Like that was how it was built. And so I was always interested, like, oh man, how does that work? Because I was always risk adverse for advertising. So I did safe content, and then now it's evergreen and blah blah blah, but you can only grow so fast.
Yeah.
So do you have to turn people away who have that kind of, like, they have a paid ad mentality but they think that organic is the way to go?
Most of the time, like, so the way that I start, or the convert stage for me, is we do an assessment where we sit down for 60 minutes together, work through what's working in their marketing, what their goals are, what they're hoping to achieve. And that tells me a lot about what's going to work best for them and whether we're going to be a good fit. I don't like to work with everyone. And the businesses that I do work with are primarily service based. And so they need a sustainable scale strategy. And so they really only need so many qualified leads at a time, and the paid ads may or may not be the right way to do that. And if it makes sense, yes, absolutely, we'll work together and I'll bring in an expert to help us out. I'm not a paid ads expert, but I do have some great people in my network who come in and support our team as well. So it's not a no per se, but it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had before we move down the line.
Mm-hmm. Who do you recommend when you say, hey, here's ads, like go to
Yeah.
this person?
I have a local contact. His name is Jake Warren, and he specializes in those small and micro businesses. He does a lot of pay per click, but he's phenomenal, and he's made a lot of businesses a lot more money, especially when it comes to local with
Mm.
service providers.
Yeah, it's way more easier to target.
Yeah,
Like, hey, instead of spending 50,000 nationwide, why not
yeah,
500 in the 10 miles around us? Like, it's way
yeah,
more effective.
yeah,
No, but
absolutely.
when I always called like ads in terms of ads relationship to content, I always said like ads are like the cheat code where you could just be like, hey, I can either wait, see the algorithm, see if I optimize right, test, experiment,
Yeah,
blah, 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 or spend $50 and boost it and see if anybody likes it. Nope. Okay, move on to the next piece.
yeah,
And so that goes to my next point, which is volume.
yeah.
So this is always an argument I have with everybody because I'm like, you know what? Number one, you're not going to know what content hits. So it's impossible for you to predict it. I've done it for 20 years. I still don't know what content's going to be good content in terms of virality and everything else. So I always go back to volume. I'm like, if the best pieces of content I've written have actually been like, I had 20 minutes and had to put something up and then I did it and it was great, rather than I spent a month writing this 5,000 word article and it's huge and complicated and has so much content and then it flopped and nobody actually reads it. So I always said you have to have those consistent pieces of content that don't take you very long, but will allow you to volumize.
Yeah, we call it hygiene content.
Hygiene content.
Yeah, so it's the stuff you fill in between like the hype and the
Yes.
really good stuff.
Oh, that's a great name for it.
Yeah, so it's the hygiene. It just keeps your content flowing in a clean and an efficient way. And so what we do is we come up with that overall content strategy, but we also work on your messaging, right? So what is the point? Why are you different? Who are you? And why should I choose you over everyone else? And once you know that, it becomes really easy to just talk about it consistently in between, right? Short, simple messages, videos, and you just use that as the fuel for fire. So what we'll do is sit down and come up with 100 ideas. And over time, you just check through those quick ideas, throw them out just to keep the hygiene flowing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, brushing your teeth every day
That's it.
versus,
Yeah, going in for a massive cleaning once every 6
Exactly.
months, right? Yeah.
No,
Probably
that's
losing some teeth.
oh, I love that because it's a lot of times it's writers where they'll be like, no, it has to be one perfect piece and that's all you need is
There's
one
no
a week.
such
Blah, blah.
thing.
And I'm like,
There's no such thing. Yeah, no, I disagree.
and so I usually explained it in terms of databases. I would say like, now, how do you make a database of content? How do you make, well, I always went to the extreme. So you have your beginner where like, oh, one article a week, that's good. Or one piece of content a week, that's good. Then you have the middle ground where maybe 2-3 times a week. And then you have like expert level, like advanced content platforms.
Yeah.
And that's usually what people ask about. Like, how do I be, the resource? I'm like, okay, if you're going to be the resource, I'm going to say 5 pieces a day. And not just 5 pieces a day, but 5 pieces of interconnected database content per day. And then it's like, F you. That's usually what it comes down to. I'm like, no, this is what you have to do. Like, this is the amount of content you have to do if you want to be whatever. And I always go back to Harvard Business Review, where I'm like, they put up 600 pieces a month. That's a content platform.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much you have to create. And then, yeah, see, exactly, Stephanie. That hurt my brain. That was literally the reaction I got at War Room, because I'm like, if your content platform, like, you're the resource, you're the authority, this is the amount of content you have to generate. Yeah. So what I found was I have to go into like the beginner, moderate, and expert level. And the expert level is that.
Very different. Yeah. And I think, the strategy has to grow and scale with the business owner and the business. And so like the businesses that I'm working with are typically within the first 5 years of business. So they are at the beginner stage. They don't want to do more content. No. They have no desire to. And so finding a strategy that's sustainable, that's not going to add more to-dos to their list, where we can take stuff off their list and just replace it is really what it's all about, because they're already burnt out. And adding more content to their list is just going to make it not sustainable or fun for them. And they're going to end up in a place where they start to resent their business. So it's all about balance, and over time identifying how we can outsource or leverage things. How can we repurpose existing content to go further, to last longer, to be better, and just optimize over time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good approach. So how do you, what do you do with somebody who's like, I've been making your content, I followed your plan, it's been 3 months, I haven't gotten any leads. Like they aren't getting the wins.
Well, we got to think about where that lives in the customer value journey. So content for me is the engage stage. It's not about getting new traffic. It's about people who show up. How can we build know, like, and trust? How can we show them you know what you're talking about, solve problems for them, get them to literally engage with your business? And that's it. And so that's what I think of when I think of content for those small and micro business owners. It's not about building awareness. And as we go through this, right, content is a small part of that holistic marketing plan. And so we are looking at driving awareness in different ways, growing their business, getting more leads. But we need to make sure that those people have what they need to take the next step and either give over their email address or book an appointment or, you know, investigate more. So that's where we start. And we just have to set really clear expectations about the purpose of content, why it's important, and what expectations you should have or what results you'll get from it.
That's awesome. Have things changed a little bit now with, like, you had the paid media changes and the privacy laws and all this stuff? And I think now everybody's kind of like, okay, one, my brand matters.
Yeah.
And two, the content I put out. Like now I care about posting on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, but I don't know what to post. You know, have you seen a little bit transition in terms of, like, people are now more accepting of the purpose of content?
Yes. And I think once people start to feel like they're becoming a recognized authority in their brand and their business, but also in their industry and their location, like seeing that transition is really fun because they start to really step into it and become more confident, because it's not about the content, it's about showing up and delivering value, which they do every single day. So how do we just box that into content? And so that's really the biggest transition, is people, instead of worrying about privacy and those sorts of things, now they're just recognizing, oh no, I always believed that I could be the person. I'm actually seeing people recognize me now. This is cool. I want more of this.
Oh, and it's just content, because it's and the volume of content, because it's like you'll see like Uzair with his YouTube videos where just
every single day. Yes.
Every single day. And it's like, even if you don't look at them or even if you don't watch them, you still like them, because it's like, oh yeah, Uzair, hey, how's it going? And then you see those topics and you see his face here and here and here and here, and you're like, oh, this guy's a thing. Like I've seen him 1,000 times, and you don't have to watch any of the videos and you'll still get that brand value or brand recognition, where they say, yes, I don't know what you do, but I've seen you a lot. You say you do X, I need help with X. Now I'm going to use you, because for no other reason other than I've seen you and you're the only person I've seen.
Yeah. Well, and you think of it, if you think of email, right? Like we talk about email and the value of unopened emails. People are reminded in a very personal way that you exist, you're a part of their life. Like that's it. An unopened email is invaluable. But content's the same thing. If somebody sees a piece of content, even if they don't read it, don't engage with it, don't like it, they still see you providing value on a regular basis, right? You're reminded that they exist. And it's just as important, if not more so, because they get to see more than just your name.
Yeah. Well, I love that, because you talked about the engagement stage, like content is engagement. However, the impression of content is awareness.
Yes.
So 2 birds, 1 stone, good to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you think is the bare minimum content that people should be generated for just your average micro business?
So I'm thinking of a micro business. We need like at least 1 to 2 like great emails going out per month, which can be broken up from 1 blog per month, really. Like a blog can turn into lots of content. And that's typically what I do. If you can do 1 long form piece of content per month, we can break that up super, super easily to create lots of content from it. So that's typically where I start. And then as they get better and more efficient and more confident doing it, we just add a little bit here and there and tweak.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in terms of just those content types, so the certification we're writing is actually broken into, well, number 1, the content marketing cert is all about content production. So when you get into content distribution, then you're linking in social media marketing, SEO, and email. But content marketing is content creation. So that's kind of the big concept. And then within that concept is the 3 types of content are watching, so video content, reading articles, and listening. Podcasts. Yes. So in that regard, where does podcasting fit into your content strategies?
Again, it's engagement. Podcasts are a huge commitment, right? As a podcast host and guest, I can tell you they're a huge commitment. And if you're inefficient in splintering content, don't do a podcast. Don't. It's not going to be worth it for you, because it should be your engine for content. It should be how you're generating information, valuable stuff that you can use, right? It replaces your blog essentially and becomes an opportunity to create blogs from it. But it is a huge time commitment. And if a business owner is already scrambling to find time to write one blog post a month, no, absolutely not. But guesting can also be a great opportunity as well. You can ask hosts to record, to give you the recording, and then again just transcribe and take whatever you said time and time again and build that out, as well as reaching new audiences, getting in front of new faces, talking about things, showing your authority. So guesting can be really great for people who aren't ready to produce a podcast. But podcasting, again, is engagement. It's a binge-worthy, easy to do while you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff as well, right? And they recognize your voice, and it's a really, really high converting way to develop content and splinter content if you can.
Yeah, and I'd say if you don't like making videos because you don't like how you look on video, and you don't like writing because you've never been a writer, then podcasting could work. And just so everybody knows, like, because I set up my original podcast, it's called the Mega Mad Podcast, and I didn't want to interview people. I do now, but back then I didn't want to interview people. So I ended up with I would just take articles that were good articles I wrote in the past, and I'd script them out, and then I'd read them. And that was the podcast. And I actually got more comments from people on those podcasts than any of my interview podcasts. So just for everybody out there, if you think like podcasting is just interviewing people, some of the best ones, I call them solo podcasts, where it's just you like, hey, have you had this problem? Here's how I solved it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But you have to have the funnel connected to it.
Yeah, if you can use it as a way to splinter content. So if it's just another way that you're taking existing content and putting it out into the world for customers to engage with, and you can do it efficiently and easily, go for it. Absolutely. It's like just adding another platform to an already running machine.
Exactly. And if you don't like your voice, you could, there's so many podcast services now that you just like, hey, here's this. And, Sally from wherever will read your script. And now you have a podcast. Like it's I think it's way simpler than people make it out to be. But just like any of the methods, you have to do it often for a while.
Yeah.
Which is always hard.
What we do with platforms like podcasting, video, and whatnot, for like my clients, is we bring them behind the scenes. So they come on a live call where I record and edit a podcast so they can see that it's really not that hard, or that they could do it. I'll run through tech troubleshooting. Same with videos, right? Like I am not a video editor, but I edit lots of videos.
Yeah, sort of you are.
Right?
You are now. There you go.
I'll bring them behind the scenes. They can come on a live Q&A with me while I'm doing it. They can even bring their own content, and I'd show them how I would repurpose it or use it or create a video from it. And so they get like actual time in without doing it by themselves, feeling super overwhelmed. And so that's a really fast and easy way. And you can use that as a convert stage as well. If you have audience members who are interested in doing stuff, you can try that.
Oh, that's genius. Yeah, I think I fall into what everybody else falls into too, where I'm like overcomplicating something. I'm like, well,
we all do.
Well, it's like, well, for us, we're teachers, right? So you think like, well, how do I teach this? Like, I know how to do it and I could do it in 10 seconds, but how would I explain it to somebody else? And I still struggle with this because I'm like, oh yeah, just watch this. And you create a website in 30 minutes. And then it's like,
yeah,
all right, I just blew everybody's minds. They think they're never going to do it now because you have to be such an expert that if you're not at this level now, you're not going to do it. But yeah, just walking them through the simple process, I think would be,
and it's
that's
also
a great webinar.
It's an easy way to force you to write SOPs or checklists. So if you're struggling with that, one of the best things you can do is do it yourself. Write a checklist of what are the must-do things, or the bare minimum.
Yes.
Things that I need to know. And that's what I'm going to present in the Ask Me Anything. If it gets deeper in any area, for sure. But I'm not going to go into detail. This isn't about mastery. It's about just getting started. How do I get someone to start editing videos? Start recording a podcast. That's it.
Well, and I will tell you, if you are that advanced where everything looks like, okay, it's blowing people's minds, then you're just setting people up to hire you for whatever you're advertising. That's actually how I wound up with an agency. Because it was like, oh, just show me how to do it. I'm like, all right, come along.
Yeah.
And then, nope, I don't want to do that. Could you please?
And if you want to be the doer, that's absolutely a great strategy for me. I don't want to do other people's stuff.
Yes. Yeah, that's where I was.
I want to coach them through it and teach them to do it themselves, or help them hire people who can do it for them, right? So that's the little difference there. That's why I do the bare minimum.
Well, in on that side, like, hey, hire me to do this would be if you wanted to do this yourself, right? Like I'm doing it, it will cost you X dollars. Because you used to have that where it's like, oh, well, I want you to do my Facebook. And I'm like, okay, well, that means a lot of things. Do you want me to, because you could hire anybody from anywhere for $200 a month and they'll put some crappy posts up on your Facebook. Or if you're going to do it right, you're going to pay $2,500 to $30,000. And for micro business owners, that's like, okay, no.
Yeah. Well, when you think about those micro business owners too, like even a $200 expense is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Because they add up significantly, and as you're scaling, that awareness of their comfort zone increasing slowly but surely to what they're willing to or can invest, gives you a lot of leverage. Because as they grow, you can provide more services. So for only a couple $100 more, you can do that.
Yeah. Well, or you give them results with something, and then they're like, okay, it is worth it. So I will give you $500 a month or $1,000 a month or whatever it is. But again, I think the hard part with content is giving them the win, because we always talk about quick wins, right? Like, how do you get people to something that they're going to be able to put on their wall and say, like, this is worth it because this thing happened. And so for you, what do you think that would be is the quick win people could get out of your stuff?
Well, when it comes to content specifically, most of my clients have an email list and never use it.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's the thing, right? Like, I don't know how many agency owners here have an email list and don't really email their people, but I was that person.
Everybody's email.
Right.
Oh, I got one hit. There you go.
But most of your clients struggle with, how do I email? What do I email? I'm going to send them a monthly newsletter of a whole
I don't want to
bunch of
annoy
stuff.
them.
Right? That's it. That's the perspective. And so if we can teach them, like, no, you can email them consistently. You'll see the open rates. You'll see that people are consuming your content. And you're building up this beautiful long-term content strategy or long-term engagement strategy with a nurture sequence. You're building as you go. New leads are going to flow in beautifully. Like, just seeing that in execution is huge, because all of them know they need to be emailing and none of them are doing it.
Yep. And they have the list. I had one. I worked with a clothing boutique here in Texas, and it's like cute Texas stuff and blah, blah, blah. And she's doing $1 million in store in a small town. And I'm like, you could probably be doing $50 million online if you're doing that well offline. And she's like, I'm like, well, how many emails do you have? She's like, oh, I have like 17,000. And I was like, and you don't email them ever? And she's like, no, I don't want to annoy them. And I'm like, do you like money? and then I said, like, okay, well, you must do like a holiday sale or something. Nope, I don't do sales. Like, all right, you don't like money. All right, got it. I figured you out. You don't like money. No. So, but no, there's those businesses all over the place. Yeah. Especially those long-term mom and pop, brick and mortar stores. Like, they're just there. They've done what they've done forever, but they have this opportunity. But then you get the operational requirements of e-commerce and things like that.
And a lot of those businesses are health related as well. And so there's a lot of regulations around what you can and can't send your clients or your prospective clients, right? Tons, especially like in Canada here, we have really, really strict regulations about marketing for all health. And so for them, a lot of it is knowing, like, I know that 18,000 things I can't tell my list. What can I tell them? And once they figure out how easy it is to stay in contact with their list and do it and start to see the flow of consistent customers and their wait lists increase for appointments like that, that's a huge transition as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. So do you think, is your opinion that everybody should be content marketing?
Yes.
No matter what business you are?
I mean, yes. I want to say yes.
I'm the same way. I just asking. Because a lot of people are, you can build a business 100% off of paid ads. Totally possible. People do it all the time. But I think just in terms of, I always think long-term, I'm like, well, long-term, you don't want to pay for traffic forever. That's not it's not efficient in any way.
Well, and I always think of, like, the businesses that I love to work with, and this is just like my humble opinion, or value-driven businesses, right? It's they want to give their customers great value before, during, and after the sale. And content really allows you to do that, right? You're creating informed buyers. you're improving customer service. And for those customers who come back, they have lots of ways to engage and stay in touch with you and feel like, I don't know if you've ever had somebody reach out to connect with you, realize it's a sale, and then when you say no, they never contact you again.
No,
That's what it can feel like.
that's
for
every day on LinkedIn.
Right? And it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And consumers are smart nowadays. They understand marketing. They understand advertising because we're exposed to it all day long. And so the best way to stand out in general, be remembered, and build that customer lifetime value is to give valuable content that your consumers can engage with and continue to get value without asking for anything. That's me.
No, and that's fantastic. Well, I think there has been a transition. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years, and there was a long time that nobody would buy anything online unless it was from Amazon, Nordstrom, Walmart, like some kind of big giant player. And now what I've seen is that it's starting to trend off into, no, I don't want the last pair of Nikes. Everybody has Nikes. Like, I want 100% bamboo grown from the ground shoes. And then it's like, oh, well, there's only like 2 of those. And so people are starting to, trust brands more online, like small brands.
Yep.
And then number 2, they have expectations of your brand itself. Like, they might like the product, but now they're like, no, I researched you and you use, petroleum based colored dye in your stuff. And I don't like that. And so I'm not going to use you. And so they just know so much more than they did before. And they expect you to tell them. And if you don't tell them, then you're hiding something from me.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing to consider as well when it comes to your content is that consumers, as much as they're smart, they also have values, right? And they expect you to have values. Right? Most people have their own desires and problems and needs. And if we can tie our brand to that. So I know you want to feel like you're helping the environment. I know you love shopping local, and I know you love standing out and people asking you, oh, where'd you get that? I solved that problem for you, right? If you can position yourself like that through your content, you're going to stand out. That's your leverage point right there.
Yep. Well, and the curation of that content, which I think is what a lot of really good e-commerce stores do without realizing that's what they're doing. So the boutique I was talking about, like the fact that she has so much repeat business from locally is because she curates the best stuff that she finds other places, brings it in, and now it's consistently curated by the same expert. So you know what you're going to get. So you're going to come back again. And there you go. It's a content engine, but you don't realize it's a content engine because you're selling shirts and pictures and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, your content, you can position yourself to solve people's problems. Like, what's the problem that she solves there? People have to hunt around to 100 different places to find the best outfit with all the pieces to be different, to look good. She saves them time, right? They show up to one place, get everything they need. They know it's great, like, done. Yep. And so you can use your content to reinforce those messages, to reinforce that value proposition of your brand over and over and over again as well.
I love that. Well, and just so everybody knows, like, just from things you've probably experienced is like restaurants. Like, you go to a new town, you're on vacation, you look up good restaurants, and you immediately skip Yelp, and you immediately skip Google, and then you go down to some obscure blogger who said the 10 best hamburgers in Austin, and then you click on that one because you're like, well, this guy
actually went.
He actually went. Like, he has pictures. There's him eating the burger. Like, you trust it because it's somebody who's real and isn't, I hate to say it, isn't a marketer, or you don't think they're a marketer.
Well, you know what? Atiba said something a couple days, I think it was yesterday, about how ugly videos work. And I think it's the same in terms of your content. People trust stuff that looks like it's homemade, that looks like it's made by you, right? And so I think with your content, if you're seeking for perfection, you're missing the mark. It's not about perfection. It's about relating with the person reading or watching. Right? How can I connect with them on a human to human level? And typically that's not about design or the beauty or the perfection of it. It's about the realness of the message.
Yes. Well, and the knowledge of the person providing it. Because I think and you'll immediately see it, because if you say like, 10 best burger shops, number 1, McDonald's, because it sells the most. Number 2, Whataburger. If you're in Texas, Whataburger is a thing. It's disgusting. Don't eat Whataburger, period. It's just like hot garbage that's overpriced.
I'm going to be Mark again so that he can't say
I hate Whataburger so much. It's like, I've tried it. I gave it a shot. Like I gave it a shot 3 times. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get something different. I must have screwed up the first time. I tried it 2 more times. I went with people who love Whataburger. I'm like, okay, tell me what to get. I'll get the Whataburger, whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is trash. That's the end of the story. That would be genuine content. I think I'd get some negative feedback from Texans.
Yes. Well,
And then they'd all come after me.
You know what?
What do you think about In-N-Out though?
You know, In-N-Out used to be better because I grew up in Southern California. I had an In-N-Out burger within 2 blocks of my house. I could walk there. And so it used to be like, man, In-N-Out burger. And then like as things progressed and they got bigger, they started adding more and more cheese instead of meat. And so now what you get is like a meat sandwich, or not a meat sandwich, a cheese sandwich, where it's just like, this is mainly cheese. It's still good. It's still, you know, like if Whataburger is here, then In-N-Out burger would be like on the moon or something. But that says more about Whataburger than it does about In-N-Out, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, there must be a lot of Whataburger fans in here. I'm not seeing smiling faces.
One of the things you can take from that is when you're creating content, it doesn't have to be about you, your product, or your service all the time. Like you can do reviews on things related that your customers care about. So if you're a boutique and you're reviewing textiles, you're reviewing different shops or things like that, right? Like what are the questions or pieces of information that are relevant to your consumer and not just you? Not just your product or service or value, but like how can you also relate to your customers? And that's an easy way to fill in hygiene content too, right? Just come up with things that are relevant on different topics and talk about it.
Oh, and another hot content tip is when you think of something, don't write out a list for like a to-do next week. Like just blah, just write it down, shoot a video like, oh yeah, this person said this and I heard that question 5 times and here's my answer. That's the best time to make content, because if you wait, you're going to forget what you were going to say. Yeah. Is pretty much it. Yeah.
Totally. I use voice notes.
Voice noter.
I think while I talk, if you haven't noticed. And so anytime I have a good idea, I record it as I'm talking so that I can come back and listen to it. Because when I go to think of the idea, I can at least like,
oh, that's smart.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going with it, and continue on that way.
Yeah. Well, that's another sign that you might be a content marketer.
Yeah, a little bit.
because I have like my note thing is like, oh, I have like 5,000 notes and I have a sorting system for it because that's what you do. So I think the content mindset, like, you know, you might be a content writer or content creator. And so, yeah. Also what I did before when I was ranting about Whataburger, that's a podcast. That would be a podcast content where it's a rant. Like I was going to make my podcast Mark Rants because I do that often. They're not super popular though, and you get a lot of haters. So another pro tip. We've got 10 minutes. Any questions? I know we have 82 comments in here. Just so you guys know, like I'm staring at the guests the whole time, so I'm not reading the contents or the comments. What grinds my burger gears? No, donut gears.
Oh my gosh. Lots of hot garbage. Lots of hot garbage.
Hot garbage, man. Yeah. That is my goal. My goal is to have a donut shop. That's like my retirement goal. Like Mark makes donuts on the corner. It's like, oh, old man Mark selling donuts.
My husband's is an ice cream shop. He wants an ice cream shop where he just gives away free samples all day long.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I wanted to up level donuts because I'm like, it's really a dessert. It's not a breakfast, you crazy people. Like, go eat breakfast in Europe and you'll see like, oh, look, it's fuel for the day. No, not in America. It's dessert time. Oh wait, now I'm making fun of Americans too. Oh, I'm gonna get so many haters from this. All right, Michelle, are there any questions that I missed on the thread?
Lisa said that you teased about our new content certification direction.
Yeah, direction?
Yeah, in the beginning you were like, I came back with so many ideas and I have a new direction for certification content.
Oh yeah, well no, it's really just an explanation because I started at the top. I'm like, hey, if you're gonna be an expert level, and then I scare everybody away, and so I reversed it and said you're a beginner. Because the expert level is like, it just blows people's minds and they're just like, that's impossible. I'm like, no, it's not. And if you systematically create your content, which is the databases I talk about, then it's actually really, really easy. And you actually end up doing it as an operational process as much as a content marketing process. And then you kill a bunch of birds with one stone. There's probably a more PC phrase than that. I need to stop talking about killing birds.
Many birds.
All the birds. Genocide. Like, oh no, it's too far. Anyways, but that's the content. So it's about massive content creation, and we'll probably have Mickey on there now because I'm like, those are great ideas.
Well, the thing I love about volume and using your content in an operational way is you get forced into practicing and getting better at content, right? Because nothing makes you a better writer than writing more. Like, I'm sorry, there's no hack, there's no course, there's no quick fix that's automatically going to be the silver bullet to make you a great writer. Like, no. Or a great content creator. Like, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get better at making YouTube videos without making YouTube videos. You're not going to get better at podcasting without podcasting. It's like, I think everybody has this kind of like, no, I see the big guys and they're just incredible. Like, I can never be them. And then I always say, like, just go to their feed, sort by oldest, and you'll see where they started, and then you won't feel so bad. Like, oh, that's terrible. And it's your favorite people. It's not just like one person. It's always your favorite, unless they start over again. But if you see somebody launch a YouTube channel and it's just killer, that's probably their 50th YouTube channel. So don't feel bad about that either, because this person is a freaking boss. Like, you're not there yet.
And remember the purpose, right? Like, is your goal to monetize your content right off the bat? Is it to become a YouTuber? No.
Yes.
If not, then don't worry about being perfect at YouTube. Use it for the purpose to engage with your customers in an easy to understand way. Like, that's it. Same with your blog posts. If you're not a great writer, it doesn't matter. Just make it clear. Write less. Make it a bullet point checklist, right? Like, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking or perfect. The point is just to engage. That's it. Your goal is not to be an all-star podcaster or YouTuber, although that can happen over time. It's not going to happen if you don't do it.
Yes. And I will tell you, I'll probably have a whole section in there about trolls, because everybody has trolls. They're all like, you're not going to be a robot that can separate yourself from them. And most people don't have the discipline to ignore them. And so we'll have some coping mechanisms for, here's your haters, and congratulations, you have haters. That's actually a step in the process of like, okay, you're getting seen, because people hate you. There's some people hate you. Most people will love you. And if everybody loves you, then you're probably doing something wrong or worse.
Well, boring. People assume that trolls actually hate them. Trolls are just trolls. They don't hate you. They hate everything.
Yeah,
or causing a fuss. Like, that's it.
It's their hobby. You know, like, oh man, I got this person going and they were so upset and blah, blah, blah. And that's you're fueling them. And it's like, now, if you don't like trolls and you don't like haters, don't engage. I always had that conversation with my clients. I'm like, don't engage the trolls unless you have a specific strategy for doing it, where you're like, no, I help the little guy. And so I always talk about the little guy, so I'm going to defend them and blah, blah, blah. But it's exhausting, and it sucks your energy. That could be used. You can think
about it like leadership too, right? Don't become a leader if you want to be everyone's best friend, right? Like, no doubt, if you are going to take a position of leadership in any aspect of your life, some people are going to disagree with you. They're not going to like you, and that's just the way that it goes. And so it's the same thing with content creation and growing a business and putting yourself out there. Not everyone's going to like you, right? Like, there's 52 billion people.
Well, actually, that's a good segue too. So this month we're starting a book club, which it's a little late in the month, but you guys could do it because the book's really short if you're interested. But it's called The 5 Temptations of the CEO. And it talks about exactly what you just said. Like, you can't be everybody's friend. Like, there's five things that you could do to be a better leader. And they're super simple. There you go. Bonnie got it. So yes, to get that book, super easy, especially if you're a manager. It's fantastic. It will change how you see all of your interactions with your employees, your contractors, your kids, or basically anybody. Well, maybe not kids. You do want your kids to like you. I enjoy that a lot. I would not like to not be liked by my children. Yeah. Anyway, but that's me. Maybe you don't care.
I'm fortunate. So my husband's like a big, tough military guy who is like an expert compartmentalizer, and like, he's super disciplined and nothing gets to him. And so I try to embody him. Anytime like something bad happens or there's a hater or someone says a comment that like gets to me, I'm like, okay, what will Kyle do? He would not care. He wouldn't even think.
Yeah,
He'd be gone.
I like that.
Okay, try to move on.
Try to move on. Yeah, don't internalize,
Yeah.
just shrug it off and go. Yeah, I was with me, like I used to be way nicer. And then my wife taught me how to like get stuff done. And so now I have Michelle hates me.
That
It only works. It only
very
works a little
efficient.
bit.
Like it was very. I like to get stuff done. That was-
That's too funny.
Oh yeah, no. Well, if you met my wife, you'd know. She's like, yeah, she gets stuff done. Like that's why I married her. Yeah, or one of the reasons. One of the main reasons I married her. I was like, man, this person, if anything happened, I thought about it in Mexico. I'm like, man, if I got arrested by the freaking whatever cartel and they had me cooped up in some dungeon prison in the middle of nowhere, my wife would come get me. Like that's the level of getting stuff done that I expect from her and
That's me
that
with
she's
my
done.
husband.
So I'm like, that was great.
It's the same here. It's me with my husband. I'm like, oh no, I have James Bond on my back. We're good.
Yeah,
That's
we're
it.
good. This is gonna get taken care of. Don't worry.
Christina
Well,
made
thank
a
you.
good comment, just
Oh.
really quickly. She said that we attract more people that we actually like and
funny
end
stuff.
up with better clients overall when you put yourself out there like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. All these exercises and all the stuff we're talking about, like it will lead to better everything, better exposure, better leads, better clients when you do get that. Like it's the content is the front end work that's just sitting there that will do a bunch of your work for you. Then you just got to be like, a new client who already loves me because they saw me on a video.
Yeah.
You know,
You can overcome
magic.
objections up front. You can deal with any of those questions. You set up the ideal sales conversation even more just by putting content out.
Yep. And disqualifying people too, because they'll be like, well, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, don't work with me. It's not going to go well. I'm fine. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Mickey. I think it's been extremely valuable. I'm always happy to talk about content. Where can everybody find out about you and what you do?
Hey, MickeyAnderson.com is my website. Yes, it's Mickey like the mouse and like the song.
Nice.
But that's the best place. It's hello at Hey Mickey Anderson if anyone wants to get in touch. I'm in the Facebook group lot, so you can always reach out there. My full name is Michaela, spelled like Michael with an A at the end. So if you're in the Facebook group and you don't see Mickey, you might have to look for my full name. But thank you.
Gotcha. And we'll post that in the group too. So go and look for that. Thank you everyone for coming. I think this has been a fantastic talk. You know, we're always trying to look for the best tips and tricks for you guys. And I think just these open discussions lead to a lot of stuff. Like Mickey is probably going to be in the certification because this was awesome. and it's the best way to get a hold of me because a lot of times I'm kind of like busy at stuff and then I don't check my email all the time. But I show up for meetings.
Yeah, take Christina's advice. Turn your mic on, turn your camera on, show up. We'll get in there.
Yep. Bust it out. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.